But the Biden border, it wasn't just open to migrants from Latin America. Our guest believes that thousands of highly trained terrorists snuck in as well. So Sarah Adams is a former CIA targeter and author of Benghazi, Know Thy Enemy. So Sarah, thanks so much for joining our show. So we look at this mainstream media narrative that's out there, and they were saying, oh, the riots, they were kicking off due to all of the ICE deportations, right? Karen Bass even went on CNN earlier today and said as much. So do you think that there are other factors at play here, or should we just kind of believe the Karen Basses of the world?
No, I mean, there's multiple things taking advantage of these protests. Obviously, there's just the paid kind of far left elements who fund these, but also terrorists have taken advantage of a lot of the protests starting after the attacks in Israel in October 2023. Being a part of the propaganda, embedding themselves within the actual protesters, and then running different campaigns. They've done some for pro-Hamas. They've done some around Afia Siddiqui. She's Lady Al-Qaeda, who's detained in the United States. And then they even did some around, I don't know if you remember in St. Louis, there's a gentleman on death row. And last fall, the Al-Qaeda got involved in that to make more relationships with the Black Lives Matter movement. So all these movements have some sort of relationship and they're coming together. And really the propaganda is bring down, the evil colonial empire, which is the United States.
Sarah, I just was really impressed the last few days with seeing our old friend again, the actual professional agitators pulling, mini color revolution once again. And, I don't think you even need to be a trained professional to see this. If you've watched a lot of the 2020 riots and you're just a regular person, and then you watch what we've seen the last few days, you see professional, agitators. So, I mean, I didn't know that we'd see it again, right? It did sort of disappeared for a while, at least at this scale. So do you think that this is going to increase, or, has this run its course?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to increase, not just the professional agitators. Remember, they make money off of it. Some of these people, this is their full-time job, right? But also, there are bigger plans for the United States, right? There are big terrorist attacks coming up, and a piece of it is to bring the public in to protest and boycott the government and to actually back the terrorists and to say, yeah, we deserve this. It's like, I don't know if you saw when the letter to America that Osama bin Laden had put out many years ago, like last year, it went viral. It went viral, right? Because they have an audience now who are easy to manipulate. And a lot of that is to do with TikTok and things like that. But it's something we should be very concerned about because the terrorists are being very proactive about it.
Yeah, let's dive into that a little bit more, because you do think an actual terrorist attack is on the horizon. And I know that you wrote an open letter to the U.S. intelligence community. So what should we be looking for as citizens here? What should we be trying to focus on? Because, again, we know that there's so much information and disinformation out there. Just tell the American people what we can actually do about this.
Yeah, I want the American people to know this is kind of their job now, because what I put in the letter is the US government right now has the wrong leader of Al-Qaeda and the wrong leader of ISIS. Think about that for a minute. So we can't trust them to thwart this when they don't even know who's running these groups. So what we like to tell the public is, it's really that, I know it's lame, but see something, say something, right? All these terrorists do dry runs, they do surveillance. If something is off, report it, right? It might be off, and then prepare, right? Get first aid training. If you're into firearms, get the training you need, be confident, in the tools that you have at your disposal, because the more you can be resilient, the better you can take care of your family and your community.
So, Sarah, why is it that the intelligence agencies in the United States are so recalcitrant? Like, why do you have to write this open letter to them? Where are these? Why?
Sadly, the first thing really came from the fall of Afghanistan and the fact that we gave up 98% of our intelligence collection. So we rely on the Taliban right now for counterterrorism information. And then with the fall of Syria, we rely again on a terrorist government for intelligence. And actually, the majority of the attackers for the upcoming Al-Qaeda homeland plot trained in Afghanistan and in Syria. And in both countries, our intelligence community is completely dark about what's going on.
So I know we'll talk about this a little bit more with our next guest, and that'll be CIA specific. But what if you're trying to advise the Trump administration right now, right? We just saw Donald Trump do his big Middle East tour, and we're trying to repair relations over there, you could say, and make sure that they're, at least somewhat friendly to us. What advice would you have right now for the administration and what they can do? Because, they might be playing as our friends right now, but you don't know how long those alliances will last.
Yeah, I really think his advisors are being dishonest with him. It's really one of the key issues, of course, is Iran, right? So Iran is working with both the Taliban and Al-Qaeda against us. They're not up against the ropes. He's being lied to about that. They approved the Syrian blitzkrieg. The interesting part is Iran moved its proxies to Afghanistan and to train in Afghanistan. Then the blitzkrieg happened. And now there's all this narrative, oh, yeah, the new president of Syria pushed out the Iranians. That was all done in advance. That's all part of the plan. And we're getting played by, first off, terrorists. Like, think about it. Our intelligence community is being played by the Taliban, and you want to trust them to go up against Russia and China? I mean, it's a huge problem. And so I really think there needs to be some honesty going to the president. And one of the biggest things people need to be honest with him is that the bin Ladens are running the show, and the bin Ladens who are coming to attack us. And do you want to be the next president with the huge 9/11 bin Laden plot, as your legacy? I wouldn't want it.
Right. So Hamza bin Laden, right, is supposedly alive and well, and running things, right, and not gone away. Why is there no public bounty or talk about this from U.S. intelligence agencies?
Yeah, they still have, on the record, he's got a $1 million bounty, which is kind of laughable. I mean, he brings in more than $1 million a month of just U.S. taxpayer dollars. But the fact is, they won't be honest that he's alive. So they reported him dead in 2019. That was actually a ruse by Dr. Ayman al-Zawahiri to protect Hamza. He had done the same for Saad bin Laden, so he's also alive. And then another thing was done that was really interesting. So Hamza bin Laden's mother was in Saudi Arabia, and the Saudi government told her, hey, we will not give you kind of like welfare unless it's proven that your son is dead. So she told the wives of Hamza, start talking about it on the phone, because then foreign governments will collect it, and then I can have proof for Saudi Arabia. So both Zawahiri and Hamza's mom did ruses. That information went into our intelligence community, and that's what they're basing their assessments off of, which is crazy. They fell for terrorist propaganda.
All right. So what I'm hearing from you is we don't know who the actual leader of the Taliban is. We don't know who is actually leading Al-Qaeda. We have people out there that are bin Laden's actual, all of his children out there. You would think that we would say, okay, you know what? Those, at least we need to take those seriously for sure. Why are we having this conversation that we can't go through and even find the bin Laden kids? This blows my mind that we are here, the biggest superpower in the world, right? And that was part of the intelligence failure and part of Bill Clinton back in the day. Like we would get attacked, and he would go through and okay, well, we'll do a little thing over here. But they had to make it almost like bigger and better, if you will, from their perspective, to actually gain something from their own people and say, oh no, we can go through and actually make a huge impact. So if we know that that's the way that these people operate, why do we have to have this conversation?
Yeah, it's almost like we have to wait again for an attack to happen, right? There are 4 bin Laden sons in Afghanistan planning against us. And that's the second generation. Remember, their sons are now grown up. They have sons in their 20s. So there's 3rd generation bin Ladens, including Hassan bin Laden, the son of Saad bin Laden, involved in the upcoming plot on U.S. soil, right? So it isn't just one bin Laden this time. There's 5, 6, 7, 8 bin Ladens. And it's just very frustrating that it's almost like we just have to sit back and watch history repeat itself. Like we have nobody stepping up to help stop this.
So, Sarah, what are you warning about for the audience in terms of what this next wave terrorist attack looks like? I mean, to be fair, for most people's understanding of this, it's been a while. and people are complacent. They understand like these Antifa type groups are out there with these riots. People don't like that. But, I think just for a lot of regular people, it just seems pretty distant at this point. But what do you think people should be expecting?
Sure. One thing that is really important for the public to be aware of, and the terrorists did this in during the Israel attacks, is they're going to target first responders, and they want to make it so first responders can't get to the victims, right? So you have to kind of think about, okay, what if there's no response to where I am for many, many hours, right? Like, how can I sustain myself? Can I do basic medical? Now, then if you're a first responder, a lot of our law enforcement are trained on active shooter, which is one shooter. These terrorists trained in 5 to 7, 8 to 10 man teams. So if you're not having drills where there's multiple shooters in multiple parts of your city and training and practicing that way, right, you're not going to be prepared and you're going to be shocked. And then the last part is, which Americans aren't prepared for at all, is there's going to be suicide bombings involved in this plot. A lot of them will be focused on federal buildings, but then there's a huge aviation plot again that involves suicide vests. Our TSA isn't taking this seriously. They haven't improved airport security. So the millimeter wave scanners stop the suicide vest. You cannot walk through it. There's been no effort to put more people through those scanners so you can walk through like a magnetometer just fine, get on an airplane with one of these vests. So until our government starts also taking this plot seriously, we're in a pretty bad situation.
Well, I know in your open letter, you were talking about their job for the intelligence community. It's not about all the policies or promotions or anything they want. It's about protecting the people. So I'm listening to you say this right now and saying, the first responders are going to be at risk, and just trying to make sure that you can actually get the help that you need. Is this a complete failure of the intelligence agencies? Then how do you describe that when we know that their job is to keep people safe?
Yeah, well, it's actually planned that way. So I don't know all the pieces of it, but after the attack happens, basically the Taliban is going to release information that's going to show the CIA is complicit. It's going to show the US government funded this attack, and they've been making it happen. They've been seeding in misinformation. So the terrorists have been really smart. So the public is going to blame the government, even if they've been naive, right? Because you also think CIA has every piece of information. They're not this stupid. Well, this time they've been this stupid. And remember that during the first 9/11, the public were very upset that those terrorists were issued visas, right? They didn't sneak into our country. Our government let them in. They let them stay when they weren't going to school or they were doing things that didn't make sense, right? So they're going to do the same. So it is a failure, and really they're going to get the blame for it. There's going to be no way they can get out of this, especially now the money is still flowing to the Taliban. It's getting diverted to this plot. Like, they're using our own cash to carry out this attack this time.
This is all very remarkable stuff and things that we just need to talk about, a lot more. So thank you for coming on and talking about this. I'm curious, last question, when it comes to the Trump administration overall, do you see some bright spots, some good changes that have happened in the national security, complex, and, what would you like to see happen in the future?
Well, I think a lot of us are excited about who's going to be the new head of the National Counterterrorism Center, Joe Kent. But the Senate hasn't confirmed him yet, right? Like, we don't have these actual counterterrorism professionals at the helm leading this, which is frustrating. So the Senate needs to go and do their jobs and confirm these people. Because think about it, we're 4, 5, 6 months waiting on him to be confirmed when he could be helping get ahead of these things. So I do find it very frustrating. We're delaying work on counterterrorism.
Yeah, it's so funny that you say that, Sarah, because we were actually having that exact discussion earlier this afternoon. Hey, has Joe Kent, has he actually gone through and been confirmed yet? No, he has not. Sarah Adams, Benghazi, Know Thy Enemy. Go pick up that book. Sarah, thanks so much.
Thanks for having me.